And we are live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday the 13th. So hopefully,
Uh-oh, I forgot about that
yeah,
one.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Good morning, everybody. My name is Bryan Armantrout with the Food Safety Foundation, here with my special guest this morning, Kay Miller from theadventure.com. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great. I was doing
And
great until I found out it was Friday the 13th.
yeah, I know. Sorry about that. So we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And every Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain, 7 a.m. where Kay is on the West Coast. Sorry, Kay. 10 a.m. on the East Coast, we talk about all things food safety. Excuse me. And this is a very unique forum in that this is not a presentation or a webinar or things like that where I get up here and talk about stuff. This is a conversation. It's a chat. We get together and we talk about different food safety topics. And today I think we're gonna have a really, really good one. It's something that we don't talk about, and it's something in food safety we have to talk about. So I'm very excited for our conversation with Kay today. So everybody, to start off with, please let us know where in the world, and it's always amazing with this, Kay, we get people attending this from Turkey and Iran and Europe and all over the world. It's really amazing. And I am in beautiful Loveland, Colorado, which is north of the Denver metro area. And Kay, you're kind of by Seattle, right? You're kind of
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
just
Seattle
outside
area.
of Seattle, and as Brian was guessed correctly, we've got some smoke here, unfortunately, from all the wildfires. It's not too bad, but
Yeah, we've
mostly
been getting
it's
that here
going to
too.
be, and it's going to be a record-breaking day. Again, we have another heat wave. I think in high 90s.
Ooh,
So
that's crazy for you guys. You had a very hot summer, right?
we have. So yeah, I can't see the weather because I've got my phone on airplane mode.
There you go.
The presentation or the talk.
And welcome, Kate. Good morning, Andrani. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. Renee, Nashville. Beautiful city, Nashville. I love Nashville. Great place to visit. That place is growing like crazy. Hopefully, everything's going okay there. So, one of the things, everybody, when we have our food safety chats on Friday that we like to do is when we get started here in KI. I'm always anxious to get started and get going on the topics, but I forget to do our drink together. So please, everybody, join us and get your favorite beverage. I've got my coffee, and Kay's got hers in her beautiful moose mug, and we'll tell you a little bit later about what that means because there's a meaning to it.
Just a small little mug here that I can barely pick up. Can't beat coffee, especially I'm a Seattle girl.
Definitely. So, Kay, let's talk a little bit about you before we dive in here and the adventure and what it is that you do.
Oh, you're just going to hand it off to me, huh?
Absolutely. That's my job as host, is to just chuck the football.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I have worked with my partner and happens to be husband for about 30 years, and we've provided consulting, marketing, speaking, we've consulted on marketing, I should say, for 30 years in all kinds of different capacities. As you can imagine, over 30 years, that's a long time. So that's what we do now. My background is in sales, which is one of the reasons Brian invited me onto this forum, besides the fact, I guess, that I really, really love food. So it's a high interest area for me. But I started out in sales. I worked for an automotive muffler company. We sold catalytic converters and mufflers for a big territory in the Northwest, for Washington State and even into some of the other states. And my claim to fame is that I was salesperson of the year for the highest sales increase in the entire country. And it was pretty cool because I did it as just one of a couple women. So I went into this industry where they were very skeptical of having a woman. I didn't even know what I was getting into. And I ended up selling more than even the guys. But we all had a great time and a very profitable time. So ever since then, ever since college, I've been in sales. I've really enjoyed that position. And so, like I said, now I'm kind of been working with my husband. Part of it is what I market and sell, what he does, his products and services. Now I'm working on my own book called Uncopyable Sales,
Nice.
because I'm kind of rambling here. Steve's book is called Uncopyable: How to Create an Unfair Advantage Over Your Competition, which is super easy to say. So I'm working on the companion book to that one called Uncopyable Sales. And last but not least, we have a 29-year-old daughter who lives in San Diego, living the life. So Steve calls himself Kelly's dad, and I say I am Kelly's mom. So,
very nice. And so we met here a number of years ago, and Steve and Kay were helping me in a role I was working at, with really working on how to sell in a company, right? We were doing a lot of work with certification and these type of things. And how do we get out there and message our product, which is not an easy thing.
Right. But the way you did it with that retreat was one of the highlights. You really did a big brainstorming and came up with some fantastic ideas on how to market.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great time too. And I think a lot of this really, and as we're going through this and talking about this, good morning, Renee, good to see you, is that a lot of times, Kay, I think people say, oh, I don't work in sales. That's not my job. I work in quality. I work in R&D or whatever. But guess what? Everybody's selling, aren't they? Everybody's selling,
even if it's an idea. And the being persuasive, is really important. And, for me, there are a couple, things that are really important. And one is trust. That when you have a relationship with someone where you trust them, then you're very likely to listen to them. And so just to get someone to listen to you, to sell, is first to develop that trust. It's always, even I'm thinking, even when you buy a stove at Sears or something, you have to develop that little level of trust. And then the next one is that you have to, see things from their side of this, see their viewpoint before you change their mind. So yes, we are all in sales, but I think it's not the typical kind of sales, but it's listening to them and getting them to our side by putting ourselves in their shoes. So yeah, we all are selling all the time.
The trust, absolutely right. If you don't have a good reputation, you're never going to be able to sell. And the other piece of it I think is really, really super important is a lot of people, I think, just, all right, I'm just going to dominate and I'm just going to go in there like a bull in a china shop. I'm going to make everybody do what I want. No, right? What you just said there, Kay, super, super important, guys. So make sure and write that down, right? You have to see things from their perspective. Why are they doing things the way that they're doing? It's just not some whim, right? They have a reason for doing things the way they're doing that. Why is that? And then you can approach them and look at it from their perspective. I think, a lot of times you hear this, like these old sayings, right? You got two ears and one mouth for a reason, right? You need to listen twice as much. And people are, and we see this on all the social media platforms, right? People are really, really quick, right? They want to get their opinion out there, right? Yes. Here's what I think. And they don't take the time to listen to what the other party needs.
And amazingly, that's pretty much, you read my book now. No, because you can't, and if you bring up social media, you cannot tell someone they're wrong. And sometimes we get so excited about the idea that we want to sell, and like with Bryan, we were talking about food safety and food quality yesterday. Well, you're obviously super passionate about it. For one thing, you've seen, what can go wrong and the devastating impacts it can have on a company and the consumers who are affected all down the line. But you can't, even if you're so excited and you're so solid in your opinion, you can't just go and tell someone this is it. I was thinking of a story that years ago, my mom used to babysit my niece, and my niece was about 3 years old at the time. And Mom was telling me this story afterwards because it made us laugh. And she said, yeah, I told Shauna to get her clothes or put things away so we could go to the store. And Shauna turned and said, I don't like to be told.
Ooh.
So, she had her 3-year-old grammar. I don't like to be told. Well, guess what? None of us like to be told. No. So persuading someone to our side of our way, our opinion, it's really kind of a dance, because you have to really listen to them get their side of it. And then one thing I like to do is say, have you ever thought of this?
Mm.
You said, and if you can use their words and say, have you ever thought of this? Or even apply it to someone you mentioned being concerned about whatever. And, somebody that I, have worked with experienced this. So it's really using what they say to sell them instead of what you're saying.
Right.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It needs to be their idea, right? It's not, they need to understand it from their perspective.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this really ties into right now in the food industry and food manufacturing and food safety. A big push right now, and you even see this, Kay, with FDA, is with the new era of smarter food safety. And a big chunk of that is something that they're calling food safety culture. And it's how do you create essentially this brand within a company and externally. And it really links back to what we're talking about here. It's that trust element and then being able to see things from that other perspective. One of the things I used to tell my people who work in plants and things like this when I would meet with them is you need to be so confident in the product that we're making that you can take it home tonight. Just pull any product off the line. It doesn't matter. Take that product home tonight and feed it to your grandchildren. If you can't do that, I need to know, right? And that's that trust side of things that we need to build.
Right. And there are levels of trust, when your consumer obviously has to trust you.
Yeah.
I mean, then you have to say, if you have investors, they have to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a quality manager and you've got to talk up the chain, they have to trust you. So, like we talked about, trust takes time to build. And it could be destroyed immediately. And we've seen that, I live in the Northwest, and the Jack in the Box situation is still something people joke about right now. And wasn't that 1990 or something?
Wow.
And but that all started in Seattle. And so there are still people who don't want to eat a Jack in the Box.
Right. Exactly. Right. Once that trust has been broken, can you even rebuild it? A lot of times the answer is no. And companies go out of business because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of times people will say to me, 2K is like, oh, geez, I'm just a quality manager in a plant or something like this. I really don't have any authority or power in the company. And that shouldn't hold you back. And we've all seen examples of this, because this example always cracks me up, is we'll watch TV shows like old ones like McHale's Navy or things like this that are about the Army or things like this, right? And you had the general and he had some power and stuff like that. But everybody knew the person who really had the power was the person who was running the supply chain, right? He was the one who could trade things and get things done behind the scenes that nobody else could do, right? He had influence in that organization. So you don't have to have a title to have that type of influence.
Right, right. You don't have to. And I'd say, for someone who's as passionate as you are and always have been, that you see your cog in the wheel, so to speak, as something much bigger, something that influences, we all have our own little ripple effect. If you have that power, again, it kind of goes back to how you help other people see your point of view. And again, it's, we all have our ways of, having just a casual relationship, friendly relationship. But when you take it beyond that, a lot of it goes, back to what we talked about, listening, relating, and then talking about possibilities. But it might be the person who is at, like you said, in the quality, who really realizes what's happening. And I guess the other people in the company are relying on you, right? They don't know. They've got their own jobs, their own businesses. So if there is something really important, I would think that those people would say, hey, if something did happen, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't I know about this? So was that kind of what you're getting at?
No, I mean, yeah, I love this because we're right on the same level here, right? Quality is a unique function within a company in that we stick our nose in all kinds of stuff, right? So you have the procurement people who are buying stuff, and the sales guys who are selling stuff, and the R&D guys making new products and things like this. But quality is touching everything within the company. They are building the systems, how things operate, to make sure that we're producing good product and that it's safe for people. And a lot of ways, and when I would train my quality managers, I would say that you're the conscience of the plant, right? You're like the little angel sitting on the shoulder of the plant manager and telling him what's good, what's bad, what's pass and what's fail. Is this the right path, or is this not the right path? And that gets into that trust piece of it. And being able to hold up that mantle is a big burden, right? And quality managers take that up willingly because they see this huge purpose in what they do, right? And so it's very unique in food manufacturing, with anywhere within quality. We work for companies, but we also have a allegiance to the discipline, right? So a food safety manager in one plant is doing the same thing as a food safety manager in a completely different industry, right? So I can be working as a quality manager in a dairy company, and there's a quality manager in a produce company. We're doing pretty much the same thing. It's just slightly different tweaks on how those things work. And sharing information between those two groups from a food safety standpoint is really important, because then everything can grow and develop. And it helps build that trust as well. And building that food safety culture, right? So it's internal, but it's also external as well. To your point, Kay, the Jack in the Box thing happened decades ago when people got sick with E. coli and little children died. And people still remember that, and that still causes pain. And the entire industry, if you work for another fast food company, it's not even Jack in the Box. If you work for another fast food company, that failure reflects on you as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's not, we all know when we hear stories, or we even see commercials, and we're like, that was a really cool commercial. What was the product again? So yeah, when you hear about a food problem, you don't even know which one it is a lot of times. So building that culture across industries is powerful.
Absolutely. And that I really think gets into what we're talking about here with the food safety culture. So if I'm a quality manager in a plant, and I'm part of the management team, and you have an operations manager and a maintenance manager, and let's say you got a procurement person and the plant manager, right? And they're all working together as a team. And then you need to build within this facility this food safety culture. And I think a lot of times, Kay, within this discipline, and you see this a lot with technical people, is we think that building up your skills, I'm going to become a really good microbiologist, or I'm going to get certifications in quality and all these type of things, and I'm going to have all these alphabet letters after my name, and then that will make me good, and then everybody will automatically do what I say, which they're in for a rude awakening, right? So that's only part of the equation. I think that's why this conversation today is really important, right? It's that influence piece, right? If you want to build this.
Yes, that's like saying you get married and your husband's going to do everything you say. Let me tell you, it don't happen.
It doesn't work. Exactly. I'm sure. So really, I mean, so all right, you're a quality manager in a plant. You want to build this food safety culture. And really, I want to introduce a concept which is really cool that you guys have, which is the first thing that you need to do is you need to identify your moose. So what does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean, Kay?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The moose is, we have in this book, Uncopyable. Can you hold it up again?
Absolutely.
Steve wrote this first book on marketing. And if you might pick up on something, and that is that our brand is orange. Orange. Bryan doesn't have his pin, but he's got his orange moose shot glass. So you can tell.
I do have my pin.
Oh, good. Both orange and moose is an ongoing theme. And this has resonated with our clients and the market. And I hope you watching this will just be a fun way to think of this, because your moose is basically your target customer. Now, as in the food quality plant, that could mean something else. Who is the person that you need to sell on this, being the, making them understand how important this is. So, typically we talk about this as your moose, because externally selling, because so many companies just say, oh, everybody needs our product. It's kind of like, watching you guys with food safety, everybody needs your product.
Mhm.
But you have to find someone that acknowledges a pain or a problem or is willing to see that. And so you
Uh,
define the exact person, and we call them the moose. And the where that came from is that Steve many years ago spoke on a show called The Hour of Power with Robert Schuller. I don't know if you
mhm.
happen to remember the Crystal Cathedral.
Yeah.
This is actually long before he and I met. But Steve spoke for Dr. Schuller for the congregation, and afterwards, Dr. Schuler complimented Steve and said, you're really good. You could be a public speaker. And Steve said, really? He said, yeah, you can make money and everything. So Steve said, well, where would I find people that would want to hire speakers? And Schuler said, well, how do you hunt moose? And so he used this analogy about if you're in a forest, if you're a hunter, which I only hunt shoes, but if you're in a forest and there's moose, but there's also bear and deer and squirrels, don't spend your time, don't waste your time on everybody. Target who your moose is. So, that could definitely apply to quality managers internally. You have to find out who your moose is. And from there, again, it goes back to, listening to them, but also learning about how they see something so that you can find ways to agree with them while saying, but have we considered this? Let's work
Mm.
together on how this can be. So it starts with, did I write a note? Yes, but I can't remember. Yeah, so if you really are passionate about the food safety, you have to find out who can help you within that organization.
Mhm.
Whose ear would I have to get, and what kind of conversation would I need to have? Like I said, we all get so excited about our ideas that we just want to say, "Oh my gosh," but that rarely works because we don't want to be told.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're 100% right. And I've been guilty of this. I think everybody has, right? When you have an idea, you think it's the best idea in the world, and why in the world wouldn't everybody else agree with you because it's such an amazing idea? And then you find out really quickly that, oh, okay, you get crickets, right? Nobody, because you haven't framed it in a way that's interesting to them.
And once you do that, once you blast in with your idea and they instantly pull back because that's a reaction, then it's really hard to get, wait a minute, let's start over. Well, sometimes you can't. So it's something to be put thought in and have a plan and a strategy and some tools. And, I know, Bryan, you have a group and I run a mastermind with our group,
Mhm.
and Bryan, you're part of it. That is such a powerful forum because we all can talk about, ours isn't in food safety, but we can all talk about these kind of more nuanced situations where how do you think of ideas and approaches and maybe just little differences that you can use to sell your idea, because like you
Mhm.
said, it's all selling.
I your visual, Kay, just a little bit ago was absolutely perfect. And when you pull back like this, the number of times where quality managers will burst into the plant manager's office and say, "We need to do this," and then right, and the reaction is this, right, and you're going to get this with the
Yeah,
arms crossed and all these type of things. You're putting people in a defensive position, and it's not the way to do it, right?
right.
So, in our example, right, let's say then that you are that quality manager in a plant and you have these objectives that need to be taken care of, right? You have food safety and food quality and all the things that you're managing, and you need to work with the rest of that team. And so you need to figure out, in this example, your moose would be the plant manager. So you need to sit back and say, okay, all right, I'm the quality manager here, and I need to talk with my moose. My moose is the plant manager. What does he care about? Well, if you're the plant manager, boy, that's a really, really tough job, Kay. You have 900 balls in the air all at the same time, right? You have to manage the product and make sure you're making the right stuff, and you have to get it made to the specifications, and you have to get the right amount made, and you got to get it in the warehouse, and you got to get it to the customer. You have to make sure that the utilities are taken care of by the plant. Maybe the local chamber of commerce is dropping by and they want to talk with you about things that they want you to do in the community. The HR, all the people things that you need to manage in the plant, right? If you're a plant manager,
That's a
you
lot.
are a busy dude. And the
Or
quality piece of
Are there
it,
any busy gals?
what's that?
Are there any busy gals?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Me
there are a
too.
lot of
Okay, I'll
successful
be a
plant
dude.
managers that
I'm
are
okay
women.
with that.
Absolutely. And as the quality manager, you need to remember that. And I think part of the challenge, Kay, if you're the quality manager, is what you're doing is expected. In that, what do I mean by that? You mean, food safety is expected. It's not going to hurt people, right? Quality is expected. We should be making product correctly. And if things are working as they should, then nothing is happening, right? And the plant manager's not paying attention, right? He's focused somewhere else. And when something happens, then all of a sudden, it gets their attention, right? And then you're in the spotlight, but not necessarily for a good reason. Now, as the quality manager, what she needs to do then is figure out from the plant manager's perspective, how do I teach them and how do I work with them to help them reach their goals, right? They want safe product. They want high quality product and they want it out the door on time. How can you help them do that?
Exactly. And you know what? When you come to somebody and approach them with, I've been watching you and I'd like to learn more about what, your goals are and how I can help you, explain to me what, the behind the scenes. How different is that than, like you said, busted in and someone going,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
really it's all about them. You know what? It's all about them.
Mm-hmm.
In sales and a lot of things, really, because we all know how we think and we all know our way is right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very hard to say. It's all about,
Well, I think one of the best tools I was able to use to help the other parties that I'm trying to influence understand is to do scenarios. And so with food safety, if you have a recall, and this is something when I was running quality at companies, I would sit down with the CEO and I would say, listen, if we have a recall, there's no winning, right? Our goal is to prevent this from happening because if it happens, it causes incredible damage to our brand. It puts our consumers at risk. It damages our trust, all of these things. And the only goal when a recall happens, Kay, is to get through it as quickly as possible and get back to normal. And their eyes will kind of get big and it's like,
yes.
I can help, but our goal is to prevent that from happening. So as a quality manager in a plant, back to our scenario, if I can create a scenario and train that team so it becomes real to them and it's not some abstraction. Oh, we've never had a problem before. Now if I hear that phrase, it means that people haven't been able to identify that threat. They think it's something that happens to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can show them an example and say, okay, guys, we're going to do a training and we're going to do a recall scenario and we are going to play it out, right? We're going to pretend that a consumer got sick eating our product and we're going to go through the entire process. We're going to activate the crisis management team. We're going to do the investigation. We're going to decide if we have a problem. We're going to make sure we know how to contact FDA. We're going to write press releases. We're going to do the entire thing. And by the time that is done, people are now like, wow.
I know. It makes it real, very real.
Yeah.
If I could swear, I'd say this blank is real.
Exactly. And so you're then able to educate them. And now back to their perspective. Now you need to, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Kay. Now the plant manager understands the threat, but as a plant manager, she then understands that, okay, if my plant is shut down because we're having a recall and the FDA is here crawling all over everything, I can't make product. I can't ship. I can't pay my employees. I have the 9 news outside.
Right.
Everything stops. Everything that I was supposed to be working on is now stopped. Right. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Bryan, how do we keep this from happening so that I can do my job? Right now you can have a conversation because now he is seeing it or she is seeing it from their perspective, from the successful operation of that facility.
And you're right. I think, we talked about another industry that's kind of similar that we work with, and that's cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just this threat that they don't want to think about. They want to dig their heads in the sand. But if you come in, and like you said, not bowl them over, but just say what is important to you. Okay, you've got all these metrics, you've got to keep going, whatever. And like you said, let's just look at the scenario of what all those moving pieces would be, so that we can together have a plan, to keep that from happening. And I'm here to help you do that, but I want you to be informed. I don't want any surprises. So here are all the things that could happen, and then how can we work together? Because I'm sure it's not just the quality manager telling you to do this, do that, right? It's got to be a collaboration.
Absolutely.
Of how, what steps can we put in place? And, it's always good to not have all the answers yourself, but to let the other person have the answers, because if they say, oh, what if we did this? And bingo, then they're buying into it. So the more you can get that, problem solving as a conversation, I think the better.
That's an important concept. I'm going to put this in the comments. You need to make it their idea.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to show them
their idea. If they all of a sudden have an aha moment, that is 100,000 times more powerful than your aha moment. So
yeah, absolutely. And you've hit on an important thing, right? There's in quality, in legal, in IT, right? In these different groups, quality is not unique in that if everything is going well, nobody notices, right?
Insurance,
it's going insurance. Well.
Yeah.
It's going well because you planned. And in plants, what happens is, let's say, Kay, that you have a quality issue and you were producing product and there was an issue, and let's say it's out of specification and it's all on hold because the quality manager needs to go back with his team and recheck it and everything else. What will happen is in the meetings, they'll say, well, we had a quality problem, right? And everybody turns to the quality manager. And no, it's not. The quality manager didn't produce the out of spec product.
Right.
But he's getting, or she is getting the blame.
Yeah, right.
And part of this process, right, when you're managing up and teaching this team
from the beginning.
I'm the person who is helping to identify the problem, but as a team, we need to fix it. Right. So why did we make bad product in the first place?
Right.
Let's all get together and figure this out so we don't do it again. Right.
Well, that is a great, that is a good analogy or whatever. It's like the quality person notices it, but what caused that quality problem is, a big, the big picture thing. So,
exactly. And you need to think in those terms, right? And a lot of times, and this is, I think, one of the internal challenges that quality managers have. One of the things that I say, Kay, is that there's a lot easier ways to make money than being a quality manager. But we do it because we care so deeply, right? We know that what we're doing matters. And we are protecting people, and we are protecting children, and we are producing product and making amazing coffee, right? I sound like a broken record sometime, but I can buy this coffee at the store, brew it up in the morning, put in my cream or whatever else, and drink it without a second thought, because I trust that the people behind the scenes who made these products did their jobs correctly, right? And until I'm disproven, I'm going to continue down that path. And it's always amazing, Kay, how quickly that flips if we travel out of the country, right? If we go to a foreign country.
Oh, yeah.
And now all of a sudden that trust we had in the food or the water or what have you is no longer there.
Oh, right. And Bryan, I didn't mention this, but my best friend lost her first baby through listeria. Did I tell you that?
No, I don't think you did.
So she and I both have 29-year-olds, but she had a baby a year before and all normal pregnancy. But then at the very end, baby was lived for 3 days. And I was up at Children's Hospital with her through listeria. So that's very personal to me. Yeah. And of course I have been in other countries and, I got food poisoning in France. Probably my fault because I ate unpasteurized cheese, which probably make your hair stand up even higher, Bryan. But yeah, I mean, it is. It's a big thing. I mean, this is people's health and people's lives beyond just the, do right by the company and make money, but this is really, what you guys do, the rest of us depend on. We really
Right.
do. It's critically important. We eat every day, and we are blessed in the US to for the most part not give it a thought.
Right. And that all ties back to building that culture, right, within that plant and within that company and having it there.
Mhm.
As I'd said earlier, one of the warning signs, if I'm in a company and I'm auditing them or I'm visiting or they're a supplier or what have you, is if I'm asking about these type of things and they say that phrase, and it can be worded different ways, but it's like, well, we've never had a problem before. We're good. They're going to have a problem, because what they're really saying is we're relying on past luck to protect us in the future, right? We're gonna spin that revolver,
Mm,
Russian roulette, and yeah, we've been lucky so far, so we're gonna keep being lucky. But what's interesting then is once something happens, then all of a sudden they see the light, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, whoa, what were we doing? What were we thinking? Right? It's like, okay, well, why didn't you see it before? Right? You should have been taking these things before, and that's part of the big challenge in building food safety culture, is that taking that abstract concept of this potential threat, because you have things always change. Bacteria are really sneaky little guys, right? And they'll figure out different and new ways to make problems for you. And we see this all the time. How do I take this abstract concept and sell it in the organization? And that's the challenge. And unfortunately, yeah, sometimes people have to have the problem, but you shouldn't have to. It's kind of like Facebook or something like this. Once you've been hacked, right, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, and somebody takes over and starts, emailing all your friends and things like that, just like the example earlier. Then all of a sudden you see the light.
yep. So it's helping. I mean, you really are helping your customer. And that's what I think of sales, as really helping somebody with something that matters. Well, you are doing that. And maybe they don't realize it matters. They don't maybe realize the ramifications. So, like we talked about, it's not that you blast in and say, oh my God, this could happen. It's that you get to know them. Obviously, there are things they care about that you can tie into, because this really, it really matters.
Yeah. And with your earlier example with your friend, examples go a long way, right? It's kind of like what we're going through with COVID right now, right? It's like, oh, the Delta and all these type of things, and all these things are flying around, and we're just getting absolutely pummeled with information.
Mm-hmm.
And different people are reacting different ways. It's like, oh my God, do we max up, put masks on our kids in school? And other people are like, no way. And other people are like, oh, we have to, and all these type of things. And, Schwarzenegger coming out with weird statements and things like this.
I hadn't heard that.
He said, screw your freedom yesterday. It's just like, what? No, 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 no. That's a line. You can't go over that, right? And you have conversations around these things. But the point is that we all have examples, and we know people who have gotten sick.
Yeah.
Right. It's the concretes and the examples. And Jack in the Box, right? So Dr. Darren Detweiler, a friend of mine who's been on here as well, he lost his child in the E. coli issue at Jack in the Box. And he has made his life career promoting and developing food safety and teaching. And he does an amazing job. It shouldn't have to come to that, right? But there's those examples out there, and that helps to make it real. One of the things I used to do to help teach people is I would put together a weekly food safety report when I worked at companies, and I would circulate this to everybody. Anybody that I could get on that email list, I put them on there. And it would be like, here's the recalls that are happening. Here's what happened to this company. Here's a story from FDA and all these type of things. And that was kind of the beginning of the Food Safety Foundation.
Oh, really?
Getting that information out there so that we can share it, so that when you're that quality manager, Kay, and you're talking with your plant manager, you can explain to her and say, hey, listen, here's an industry just like ours that just had a recall. Why do you think that happened, right? Are we special? No. Could this happen to us? Yeah. We need to take steps. Don't you agree? To make sure that we keep manufacturing and that we're producing high quality product day in and day out. Wouldn't you agree, plant manager, right? Now we're talking their language, right? Okay. if this happened to us, these would be the ramifications, and this was how this would impact my job as plant manager. Now you're talking to them.
Right. And, I always think of something Steve and I talk about. Even if the chances are 1 in a million, if you're that one person, the chances are 100, right? My friend lost her baby. Yeah. That's very unlikely to happen, but it happened to her.
It happened.
So, when sometimes the statistics and, don't mean anything. They're easier to tune out till you know someone.
Yeah.
Or you have an example.
So that wasn't the appropriate time to kind of laugh. I was thinking to myself,
really, what's wrong with you?
What is wrong with me? When I would do trainings in plants, I would put out bowls of candy and things like this. And of course, people rah, 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 right? And they grab the candy and they eat it. And a lot of times what I would do then is say, okay, that bowl of candy I put out for you guys, why do you trust that? How do you know that, I don't know, maybe I put one piece of candy in there that had a problem. You don't know what piece it is. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden everybody's, they're eating and everybody's stop. Right? They stop. Right? And if there's only one contaminated M&M in that giant bowl of M&Ms, you're going to stop eating those M&Ms.
Well, I hate to argue with that, but on the other hand, according to Donny Osmond, one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, girl.
But from a food safety standpoint,
it does. It's wrong.
It produces ethylene oxide and.
Or was that Michael Jackson? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, you're right. From a food, it's like you said, Russian roulette. That is the thing that makes us challenging. If you knew what was coming, hey, we'd get ready for it. But when you don't know what's coming, but you take the steps to prevent it, it's not like it's, I wouldn't think all that disruptive to just change some little things, right? I mean, It's usually, I don't know this industry like you do, but to me, it seems like you would just put a different set of steps in place.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, right? And this is the selling side of it that we're really hammering here today, right? It's not as the quality manager, you write all this stuff down of how you think things should be. And then you take it to the plant manager and say, here's the changes we need to make, right? You're going to get this.
Yes, you're going to get that.
Because that plant manager is now looking at it from their perspective and saying, okay, how is this going to impact what I need to do? Mm-hmm. Right? And now they're going to get defensive. Austin had a good comment here. A great way to develop those aha moments is to talk through those scenarios and ask for their input as opposed to telling them what would happen. Like you said, have it make it their own idea, 100%.
Right. That is really good. And I'm glad you brought the point up again, because I'm writing a freaking book about this. And I still, as a salesperson, I sometimes get too excited. And I'm like, I know this is going to work for you. And, just imagine this, instead of saying, so what would it mean if you could free up some floor space? And they're like, well, that means I wouldn't, my rent would go down and this and that, helping them discover it, like, wow, this happened to them. What do you think that they, let's talk about what they could have done. Make it their idea. Really, truly. I mean, sometimes, we all like to be the teacher. And, I as much as I can, I put my customer even in that role, because, the quality manager can teach the plant manager, but the plant manager could also teach the quality manager, So I see it as from my quality manager thing, show me as a plant manager how we could, work that to do that together, work that in, then you'll have a much higher level of success.
Oh, absolutely. And your example there, Kay, was a lightning bolt. Boy, that was a good one. So for example, if I'm a quality manager, what's that?
As opposed to the other ones?
No, they're all good, but that one really stuck with me.
Okay, so.
So if you're the quality manager and you're thinking in terms of what the plant manager needs, let's say you go to the plant manager and you say, okay, right now, so one of the metrics a lot of plants use is right first, which means, okay, for what we wanted to make that day, did we actually do that? So let's say you wanted to make 1,000 cases of something. And if you make all 1,000 cases, you're at 100%. Yay, right? Success. But a lot of times, there's minor problems, right? Let's say you got some damage, or maybe the ink coater isn't working correct, or things like that, and you got some product that's on hold. So let's say of those 1,000 cases you wanted to make, you only got 950, right? So you're now at a 95% right first percentage. So going to that plant manager and saying, using your phrasing, guys, which I think is really important, is instead of taking it from a quality standpoint, think of it from the plant manager standpoint and say, what would it mean to you as the plant manager if we were able to get that 95% right first percentage up to 98%? And then he starts going, oh, well, that would mean extra profit. That would mean better efficiency. That would mean lower costs for labor. That would mean, right? So now that plant manager is thinking in their language.
Right.
And now they're receptive to your message. Now they're going to say, okay, well, quality manager, how do we do that? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about that. I've got some ideas, right, that may help you. Now, all of a sudden, your value to that plant manager, boy, that's really gone up.
And and trust too, because you brought this to them. So, and I think twofold, using their language and addressing it and from their standpoint is great. And like I said, also letting them kind of come up with the conclusions.
Yes. It's like Austin said, make it their idea. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's kind of bring this back up to the 30,000 foot level. Okay. So some super valuable lessons, right? So I think what quality managers need to realize is don't get trapped in the technical world, right? The skills that we have as quality managers is super important, but as equal to or not more important is the ability to influence and sell those ideas in the organization, right? You're part of that group. You're part of that team. You're not separate. You need to work with them to influence them and help them get to what they want.
I think you summed that up very nicely.
So if people want to reach you, we've got your email on here, okay? Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
That is the best way. Yep. Yep.
So. The best way. And one of the things, guys, that I've just launched, in addition to the Food Safety Foundation, is there's a new forum out there. It's pretty new. It's only a couple of years old, and I came across it from Scott Adams, who does the Dilbert cartoons. It's called Locals, and it's a fantastic forum for sharing information. And so I've launched this, and you can actually join and be a member for free. And so I'm sticking in the chat here the address for this. So it's foodsafetyfoundation.locals.com. All you got to do there is join, sign up, and you start getting content. And so I'm adding more and more to that. So there's a free side, and there's also a membership side for a small fee. And you can get amazing information and things that I find, just like my old food safety report in my companies, same type of thing, right? So this is helping to promote and share that food safety information. Cheryl had a comment here. It's always good to see Cheryl. When I worked in a small company and managed several departments, I asked the department manager what they thought the fix would be for the situation at hand, so that the situation would be an open discussion without telling them what to do. Bam. We discussed the situation and agreed upon the correct methods. 100%. 100%.
Yep. Good method to do that. And, like I said, even when you're smart enough to do that, sometimes, speaking from experience, it's hard to not get your, so sold on your solution that you just blab it out. So it's always better if it's theirs.
Yep. Get out of your box. Get out of your box.
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing conversation. What I love about this, Kay, is this is something in the food safety, food quality world, manufacturing, that we don't talk about enough. And it's super important, right? We have an important mission, but we have to be able to promote and sell that mission if we're going to be successful. So, Kay, thanks for sharing your message. And I'm really looking forward to your book. I know it's going to be awesome. And we'll be talking soon.
Great. And thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Appreciate it.
You bet. And so, of course, everybody will be back here next Friday. So, again, we're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 8 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Eastern. And please go check out Locals and let me know on there how you like it and how we can improve it. And of course, the Food Safety Foundation as well. So we'll see everybody here next week. Thanks again, Kay.
Bye.